Suffocate to make me breathe again.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Am I live on YouTube too? Let me see. I am live on YouTube too. Okay, cool. So I basically wanted to stream to talk about the BnR. Contrary to popular belief, even though I hadn't streamed in a while, I did keep tabs on the meta, even though I say I wasn't, but I did, because obviously I should. And I'm not really like sold on the candlestick ban. I don't think candelabra should have been banned, honestly. Oh, I guess my wife needs me to bring groceries in, so give me a second, I guess. Please help me, 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 please help me. Yeah, he's gonna come over and drive it. And all right, I'm back. Okay, I brought in the Diet Cokes. Amen. All right, so let's pull up the BnR. And I want to talk a little bit about just kind of like where I think Legacy's going to go. Let me make sure my music's working too. Shoot, I don't have music. NCS chill music. Dude, I had a matcha latte, but I didn't really want matcha. And so I asked them to not do it in matcha, but then they made it in matcha. And so then in order to fix it, they just put a shot of espresso in there, and the matcha is not sitting well. Oh, it's kind of brutal, actually. Anywho, I think trying to like, here, let me actually just put the chat here so that people can see. I'll put it here so that people can't see everything. Just so people can actually see the what chat is saying. Oh my God, how do I? Oh, it's because I got two different resolutions going. How difficult is this to see on the YouTube stream? I'm like waiting for the YouTube stream to show so that I could figure this out. Okay, cool. I think Tron will like it'll be a little bit, then people started candelabering, which is a nice spot for it on MMO. I mean, okay, I think ultimately, right, the first thing that we need to discuss is like, was Candlestick the ban? And I don't think Candlestick was the ban, honestly. And the reason I say that is because Candlestick is such an iconic card, and it's been around forever, and it's obviously expensive. But it's kind of like the classic example of a classic card dying for like modern sins, right? Like Planar Nexus, in my opinion, was the hit for more reasons than just power level. I don't think Planar Nexus is a good card for the format because it's a really confusing card. And I don't know if like that's not really like I don't like cards that are just like really inelegant, right? And Planar Nexus is super inelegant. Like, well, what the hell does that mean? This is all land types. What the fuck is a land type, right? Like, I don't know. I wish they had Planar Nexus if they wanted to touch these Tron decks, because frankly, I think Planar Nexus is not only a problematic card, but it also is a very confusing card, and also like not something that like no one is fond of Planar Nexus. No one has memories of their childhood playing with Planar Nexus because the card came out a year and a half ago, like 2 years ago, right? Like it's not a card that people are like. It's not a like when you think of why people play Legacy. A lot of people play Legacy to play with the cards that they like grew up with in many ways, right? And no one grew up with Planar Nexus, so I think banning Planar Nexus kind of kills the whole point. I mean, not like banning Candelabra kind of kills a lot of like the point of why people play Legacy, which I don't like. And they obviously didn't want to hit Planar Nexus. And I do think it's because they like their newer cards being played in the format. Like I think they legitimately like that the new cards are played. But yeah. It's a good ban for not nuking Tron from orbit, but I'm going to be honest, Harmony, like, I don't really give a shit personally if Tron gets nuked from orbit, because it's not really like when those decks, when the mud decks were playing Metalworker, I think the deck had a lot more to like be passionate about. But when the deck is just all the broken fast mana of yesteryear and all of the gigantic design mistakes of the last 2 years, it's not really a deck that I think has a lot of pizzazz. On one hand, yes, Planar Next to the ban. The other hand, if you're confused with Planar, you should just but when you think of a card like Brainstorm, right? Draw 3 cards, put 2 back. It's like so easy to understand what's happening. It's so powerful. It's so fun. There's so many interactions. Like you're always happy to play Brainstorm, right? Like it's like a fun card, and it's so simple. Thoughtseize. Remove opponent discards a card, you lose 2 life. Non-land card, right? Like these cards are so good for the format, and they're so good for the game because they're so simple and easy to understand, and also very powerful and skill testing. Like Brainstorm and Thoughtseize are 2 of some of the best designed cards ever because they're so simple, and yet there's just, you could write a fucking like. If Menendian wanted to write a book on Thoughtseize or Brainstorm, he probably could, right? Planar Nexus is like the opposite of that. It's just a bunch of fucking word vomit, and it's not a very interesting design. It's just like it's just like an abomination of a card, and I think honestly that should have like played into why I think it should have been banned. Because I also don't think like the play pattern of like Urza's Tower, Planar Nexus, One Ring is very interesting. Like, I'm not saying it's a broken play pattern. Like, yeah, it's weak to Daze, it's weak to Disruptor Fluid, it's weak to like that you can get wasted off your mana and then your mana just falls apart. But it's like, it's one of those cards where it's like, it's just a force check simulator. It just too often turns the game into a force check simulator, and I don't know if that's the type of direction that I want Legacy to be in, is just force check simulators. Me personally, at least. Like again, I don't think it's an egregious power level, especially with the candle ban, but like I don't think it's a play pattern that makes the format better that people are excited about. So that's why I think they should have hit Planar Nexus. I do think the deck should have been hit harder than it was, and I also don't think Planar Nexus is a good card for the format, just from a purely card design standpoint. Ever it feels like a force check simulator, though? I was actually thinking about this as to why, like, if you look at the mocks and the decks that have won the Legacy mocks, it's been all combo decks except for D&T, which was highly tuned to be a Reanimator at the peak of Reanimator. And I think a lot of that is because combo decks in general are just going to get better and better, because generally speaking, Tamiyo is obviously a shot in the arm for fair decks. But let's be honest, the best Tamiyo deck that ever existed, it was Blue-Black Reanimator. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like combo will always outpace fair, because you can only get so efficient with the 1-drop creature. Like they would need to print something so egregiously busted to make a one drop creature better than an average combo deck at this point in Legacy that it's almost just like I think as power creep will inevitably lead to more and more combo decks reigning supreme, and I think that's just going to keep happening. Like if we look at the metagame right now, like Delver is good because it beats up on combo. But then we have Tron combo. I'm not even know. I'm not even going to categorize what the fuck lands is. And then Eldrazi, which is a fair deck that plays like a combo deck. That's effective. Like Eldrazi is a fair deck, but it's effectively a combo deck and how it wins games. Like you're winning games on like turns 1 through 3 by just generating such an egregious advantage. And if you can't win in those first few turns, you just fall apart. It's basically a combo deck. Like the way you play against like a combo deck. Energy is obviously the penultimate fair deck. It's just playing to the board. And then combo, energy. I'm just going to group these two together. And then obviously Death and Taxes beats up on all the fair decks. And that's kind of like the meta, right? But I think the problem is like combo decks, like Tron being one, this is obviously going to plummet soon. Not plummet, but it's definitely going to go down. But I do think power creep ultimately favors combo decks more than it favors fair decks. And so as a result, I think we're going to see more and more combo decks. Because if I remember correctly, the last Moxes have been one. It was this last Mox was combo. It was Alurin. The one before that was Adam Wasmo on Death and Taxes. And if I'm not mistaken, it was like Doomsday, and then it was Andreas's Mox, which I think was Bank Control versus Sneak and Show, I think. I'd have to remember. But basically all this to say that I think combo decks are just going to get stronger and stronger as time progresses because I think power creep in general favors combo decks, in my opinion. Eldrazi is it's stompy, but you play against it like it's a combo deck. Like it's not like you're not playing a fair matchup against Eldrazi most of the time. Like most of the time they're vomiting their hand, trying to just like vomit their hand. Like they're trying to like it almost like in essence, like you're almost playing like a storm deck with creatures. Like you're trying to get your Fleshraker, I get your Fast Man, and then cast like 3 creatures in one turn to end the game. I mean, that's the definition of stomp. I mean, here's the thing. I'm trying to break this up into like aggro, into the 3 like main pillars, right? Of combo, aggro, control, right? And it plays more like a combo deck. Can we make like a real stompy deck, mono white initiative? What? The semantics of what Eldrazi is doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is that Eldrazi doesn't play like a typical fair deck. In the same way that Moon Stompy doesn't play like a typical fair deck. Like, yeah, it is an aggro deck, but in the eyes of someone who plays against it, like frequently, you have to play against it like it's a combo deck. Because except it's harder because it's a combo deck where you need removal spells, right? Like you're not playing a back and forth game with Eldrazi most of the time. It's usually Eldrazi's vomiting their hands turns 1 through 3. And if you can handle it, you're going to win. And if you can't, you're going to lose. Like, it's not like there's a push and pull with Eldrazi most of the time. Like when you think about like the blue-black mirror or like the Delver versus blue-black, there's like a push and pull to the game. Like you're going back and forth, you're trading resources. That doesn't really happen against they hit Candlestick to spin up controversy. This is Epstein Files levels of distraction from the Fantastic car. So all I'm saying is you play against stompy decks, you play against a stompy deck like it's almost a combo deck, and that you have to stop their early, like their go off, like their early aggression, and then you just win most of the time. Like if you can stop, like once like mono red will vomit their hand very quickly. And if you answer the vomit, you win. Kind of like Storm. Storm's going to vomit their hand very quickly, and if you can answer the vomit, you win. Right? Like, there's no push and pull. Like, what I'm saying is that, like, even to get Controller versus Delver, like Beanstalk versus thing is like a push and pull. The problem is in Legacy, like, Standard is just mid-range fest most of the time. Like, sure, there's some combo decks, but most of the time Standard is a mid-range fest. You guys are trying to like dissect what I'm saying to like such an extreme degree. Like the point I'm trying to make is that power creep favors these decks that are trying to vomit their hands, whether it's Stompy or combo. These decks are trying to vomit their hand, and that's what power creep is going to favor. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't really care about the semantics of like. I'm not trying to argue the semantics of what a combo deck or a mid range. Like, that's not the point. The point of the argument is that power creep does not favor push and pull decks. So let's do it that way. Push and pull decks are going to be like a Delver and blue black and shit like that, and like Band Beanstalk, like shit like that. Those are push and pull decks. There's like an ebb and flow to the game. There's no ebb and flow to games with Stompy and like combo. It's usually just Durdle with combo. It's like Durdle, try to win. Or it's against Stompy, which is try to win, lose. We need a power creep force negation to give a reactive decks a boost. I guess that's another better way. Is a power creep favors proactive decks. And generally speaking, a deck like Eldrazi or Storm is going to be more proactive than a deck like Blue Black or like Delver. And that's crazy to think about. I feel like this is a reaction of the play patterns and her proactive decks. I'm fine with that description. Wait, I'm confused. The point I'm trying to make is that power creep doesn't favor fair decks. That's the end point. We're not talking about this anymore. We're getting shoehorned into this argument. The point I'm trying to make is that as time goes on, the hyper proactive decks are going to naturally gain more than the hyper reactive decks. White Plume Adventure unbanned, never. All this to say that I think cards like there's going to be more Fantasticars. All I'm saying, there's going to be more cards like Fantasticar than they're going to be the blue tempo decks are getting the best cards ever the last couple of years. How is that true? The One Ring? Also, I mean, Reanimator is kind of an egregious way of saying tempo. Like, sure, it's a tempo deck, but it was really a combo deck. Flow State and Quarry Steel Cutter and Moonshadow, none of those cards could keep up with the One Ring. Like, Tron was still the best deck after all of that. Like, Tron was very easily the best deck up until this BnR, and it probably still is. Low-key. Like, Blue is getting good cards, but they still don't keep up. Like it was like, I still think Tron, like, do you guys not think that Tron, no shot, Tron's still the best deck? I think it probably still is. I think like Forge is going to go back to being the best deck. Forge won Eternal Weekend. Like the OG Forge. And nothing from that deck is banned. I'm not saying Blue is struggling, but what I'm saying is I think power creep favors the hyper proactive decks more than anything reactive. Just in general, how Wizards design language is. The thing is, like, you guys, like, Flow State made the blue decks better, but it's not like blue decks dominated the format. Reanimator is still one of the best performing decks, even after the Entomb ban. Tron is probably the best deck going into this format. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, looking at this metagame, what are the win rates? Can I get win rates in Legacy? Do we have this anywhere? Like, does anybody have the Legacy win rates? That's what I care about. I have to fix my chat. Hang on. Well, the only reason I made the argument that Eldrazi plays like a combo deck is because I was trying to like make my point that like these hyper proactive decks that don't care okay, I'll put it this way: battle cruiser decks. Battle cruiser decks that are not trying to interact with your opponent generally are going to, like, from Wizards' recent design language, are more favored than fair decks that are trying to be reactive. The difference you don't see because you play exclusively blue-based decks, the difference between stompy decks and combo decks is, I mean, even though that is true that I mostly play blue mid-range decks also make up like 50% of the format, like, generally speaking. Because it's just like a lot of people play the deck they want to play in Legacy, not necessarily the best deck. Eldrazi is a tourist deck. I think that's partially true, but I do think there are some people that really like Eldrazi, i.e. Schmeckles. Like, I will stand by that. I think power creep in general favors hyper proactive decks. Like, Flow State was a nice addition to the blue decks, but I don't think Flow State is still even close to as good as the One Ring, obviously. I don't know if you already mentioned it, but I hate that they imply I want the chat to be seen. I hate that they imply that they banned Candle because they don't think the problem is lands making multiple mana. It's Candle pushing cards over the edge. I agree. Like, fast mana is the problem. I don't think Candlestick was the problem. Candlestick was just like the best way to abuse fast mana in the colorless shell. But to be honest, like, if you sleeved up Forge right now, the one that won Eternal Weekend, I guess that list had a one of Candelabra, which was very good, mind you. I still think that deck is at a similar power level and would probably crush right now too. Planar Nexus is just a bad. I said this already. I don't think Planar Nexus is a good card. It's like poorly designed, it's confusing, and it's very unelegant. Inelegant? I don't know if that's a word. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Wizards wants to keep their new cards in the format because they're biased, right? If you're a designer, you want your card, you want what you work on to be played, right? Like 100%, that's why they keep it around. Like, they're keeping these cards around because they just made them. The designers that made these cards are still employed at Wizards of the Coast. The people who made Candelabra are not employed at Wizards of the Coast. They're keeping they're obviously going to have a lot of recency bias because why wouldn't you? Why would you want to, like, invalidate what the fuck song is playing? Why would you want to invalidate your work, right? So obviously it makes sense why they banned Candelabra over the other cards, even though it makes more sense to hit Planar Nexus. Because frankly, it's not like, yeah, the people that make Candelabra, like, that's why they're going to ban something like Candelabra, in my opinion, is because they, like, I don't even think it's necessarily they think they can profit off of it, because I think they've already made their money on MH3. But I do think it's because if you're a game designer and you have to get rid of something, you're going to get rid of the thing that you don't have any emotional attachment to. Like, if I was a game designer and I worked on Planar Nexus, I would have an emotional attachment to Planar Nexus that I'd want to keep seeing it played. Like, they're always going to favor banning the older stuff than the newer stuff just by nature of, like, humanity. And that's my take. So that's why they would ban Candelabra. They also obviously took into consideration the price. They can't say the price. They can't even mention the price because it would invoke gambling laws on booster packs if they had an official, if Wizards of the Coast officially made officially recognized that cards have differing value, I'm pretty sure that would legally bind them into gambling laws, which is what they're obviously trying to avoid, even though booster packs are basically gambling. So it's like, obviously they're going to be biased towards their cards that they made, like the designers today made. Isn't that literally, I mean, they never talk about the individual value of the cards. They're very careful to never, in an official setting, ever talk. Like, if you were to ever cast for an official Wizards of the Coast tournament, there's like a giant fucking disclaimer that says, if you mention the value of a card, you will lose your job. Like, basically on the spot. it removes what, 8K deck price with this ban. While I agree that the price is relevant. I also think that the majority of Legacy is played online. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's good that the deck doesn't cost $20,000 anymore. But also it's like most of Legacy is played online. But I understand, like I understand the paper argument, obviously. Like, it's a fucking absurd amount of money. Like, I do think Candelabra was the wrong ban. I do think they should have hit Planar Nexus for more reasons than just one. And my biggest reasons, I think it's a poorly designed card. And it isn't very like interesting or fun or anything. It's just kind of like a word vomit card that just does way too much for nothing. The other thing I want to talk about is the Fantastic card banning. So anyway, to wrap up all of this, one, I think power creep in general will favor combo decks moving forward. To what extent, I don't know. But that's my theory. That's my opinion, is that I think power creep favors very proactive decks and combo decks. Whether that's like the same thing or not, it doesn't really matter. It's semantics at this point. But generally speaking, battle cruiser decks that are trying to interact with your opponent less are going to gain more from power creep than decks that are trying to play a push and pull game. Next up, the Fantastic card ban. I don't know if Fantastic card actually needed to be banned. Personally, and before anyone memes on me and says it's because you were fucking sucking it up in the leagues yesterday, it's like, well, yes, I was sucking it up in the leagues. But I do think in Legacy, it's like not... I don't think it needed to. If they banned it, I would understand. But I also understand why they didn't ban a Fantastic card. I think the argument, though, Schmeckles, is like, even though the Daze Force Shell is strong, and even though, like, yeah, you can Daze a turn 2 One Ring most of the time, like, I don't think games that are decided by if you actually got your counterspell in hand or not are very interesting games. And I think we're just getting more of those games, which I don't think is good for the format. Like, I get that Force of Will and Daze keep things in check, but you have to understand, obviously, that you're not always going to have Force of Will or Daze. And obviously, Legacy has always had Force check decks, but I don't think adding more Force check decks is good, because I don't think that type of magic is very fun or interesting. Like, if I keep a reasonable hand of blue spells, but I don't have a Force of Will, and I'm in the blind, and my opponent goes turn 2 fucking One Ring, I just lose the game. And sure, you'll say, oh, that's always existed, that's part of Legacy. But it's like, I mean, Tron was just basically added. Like, Tron and Forge, that's like anything with Car, it just adds more force checks. Like, Car is just a force check. Yeah, but adding more force checks to the force check deck isn't a good thing. I mean, Tron is definitely a force check deck. What? You just lose to One Ring if they play One Ring. The game is over. Like, and the other thing, too, that I saw Tubo post, Tubo's like a big tempo guy, really cool guy, too, actually, is the format becomes rock, paper, scissors if you start getting into this like meta game of the force decks will beat the combo decks, and then the cat and the super fair decks like Cradle and Eldrazi. I mean, I want to say Eldrazi. I mean, it basically will beat the force. Like Eldrazi frequently can beat the heavy counterspell decks because they're just vomiting their hand, and one force of will is not doing shit. But basically, all that to say that like rock, paper, scissors formats also aren't very interesting in my opinion. Like, I don't want to queue up a game. I don't want to go to a tournament and be like, I'm going to lose to 33% of the meta. And if I queue into those 33% too often, there's no chance. Like, obviously it's hyperbolic. Like, I get that. But the point is, I don't think rock paper scissors metas are very interesting for tournaments. Like sure, in like a league or challenge, whatever. But if I'm like taking time out of my day to go play into like to go play like a 6 hour tournament and I queue into two people that I literally like, if I queue into two cats decks when I'm prepared for Tron and I have to be hyper prepared for Tron, it doesn't feel good. And like further defining a rock paper scissors meta, I don't think is where I want to be in Legacy. I like when formats are more condensed because it means there's a lot more avenues of skill expression, of outplaying, right? Like I don't want to have to be pigeonholed into having to play like a ton of counter spells and like hand disruption in the board so that I can have a better chance against like Tron, right? Or against the combo decks. And then I queue into fucking cats once and I'm sitting there with like only 2 cards I can bring in. Vomiting is rude. My spaghetti elegantly walk into the battlefield. All right, Schmeckles, you're right. We'll roll out the red carpet for your boy Glaring Fleshraker. What I don't like about the card's how it fits, and yet it has complete different means, requires different answers. I don't have any extra slots. My bannings to do with everything. Not every deck plays Deafening Silence. Yeah, like the fact that it also goes through Graveyard Hate, because the thing with Storm too is you could also like, if you actually have Graveyard Hate against Storm, it does shut off a lot of their lines where they actually have like, and it buys you time to find an answer to something like a Song of Creation line, right? But the fact that you could cast this thing through pretty much every hate except for Deafening Silence is also what makes it egregious. I don't think RPS is super accurate, but the principles are still there. Entire swaths of decks have been forced to just dodge decks because no one can cover even half the combo decks in a single sideboard. Yeah, the fact that combo decks are so varied in how you approach them is also not healthy. Like, the best way to handle a meta of Sneak and Show, Reanimator, Tron, whatever, Storm, is just counter magic. But what happens when, like Storm is fucking hexing Squelcher now, man. Like, I played a game earlier when I was like, I played it super intelligently. I basically saved everything. I was just like doing everything I could, and then they just go top deck Squelcher, and the entire game has been invalidated. Like, I don't want to sit here and complain about hexing Squelcher, but that's like another thing that's like, it's kind of an egregious card. Where it's like, okay, now I have to bring in removal. But what happens when I draw my removal and they don't have a Squelcher? Then I just fucking, and then I just have these useless cards in my hand and I'm dead. Honestly, if Consign didn't exist, I feel like, yeah, Consign is kind of a stupid card. Consign is the definition of, they fed us poison, then sold us the cure. That is literally Consign. Like, what Consign is the cure that they're selling us after feeding us poison. It's like, here, we printed all this super busted colorless stuff. Here's the best answer to it. You have to play 4. It's like, that's not fun. Like, that's not interesting gameplay. That's not interesting game design. Like, I don't want to sit here and be forced to play the cards that Wizards printed specifically to answer this because they knew they made this thing so strong. It's like, I like when I get to pull in from the Legacy card pool to find answers to things, but when everything is so hyper efficient and hyper relevant, there's only one thing you can do, and that's to play the one card they designed to counter it. Like, I don't like that game design. I don't think that's very interesting or fun when Wizards is telling me how to build my deck. Like, think of the Energy Shell. Wizards literally said, here's a deck. Now play it. And that's energy. I hate this music. Why can't I just get like an NCS lo-fi? I'm going to do NCS lo-fi. The problem is I don't know if this is truly NCS because YouTube will like have a fit with me if I play anything that could be remotely copyrighted. Is this NCS? I have to like pause this now and double check to see if anyone in the comments had said that this is NCS. Great, I can't tell. YouTube is the worst when it comes to this stuff, by the way, because instead of muting the VOD, they just say, if you do this again, we'll ban you. Like, just mute the VOD, man. You guys clearly have the technology to do this. Okay, there we go. Force is the only thing that kept that deck in. Wait, which deck kept what in check? Don't forget that one of those you had Vexing Bauble. I mean, Vexing Bauble was obviously an egregious card. Like, that one was clearly an egregious design mistake. Like, there's no, like, yeah, we all know that was a design mistake. Like, that should have never made it to print if they had Legacy in mind. Like, everyone knows that. That's not, like, I'm not going to use Vexing Bauble as an example of anything. That one was obviously a mistake. Right, like, I think that's silly. I do think Fantasticar probably needed to get touched. Will probably need to get touched eventually, but I don't know if it needed to get banned today. I also don't think they should have banned Candelabra. Again, like, it definitely should have been Planar Nexus, in my opinion. I think Planar Nexus is just a bad card for the game. I do think, though, that how the meta shapes up after this is going to be pretty relevant, too. I don't think Forge is dead in the water. I think Forge is still one of the best things you can be doing because the mana base is so strong. It's very resilient. It plays the One Ring and can just kill out of nowhere. Like, it's still very powerful. Eugene is still an affront on humanity. Like, fucking Eugene, Eye of the Storm, whatever the fuck it's called, that says kill your Clarion Conqueror when I cast this thing is fucking bullshit. Like, I still think those blue post decks were also very strong, and those decks are still very much alive and well. Like, I think blue post probably makes a comeback because it's just another good deck that can abuse Planar Nexus and One Ring. Unbanned Troll and Grief. I would like to see Troll and Grief unbanned. I want my bug shit pile back. Anyway, all this to say that, like, I do think Candelabra was the wrong ban. I do think Fantasticar maybe should have been touched. I do think we'll eventually see Fantasticar touched, unless maybe I'm just totally off base with this. But when I was playing with it, like, if you want Grief Bag, I want Myco. I mean, we're getting Bilbo Arcanist soon. Vintage and Legacy need format panels. I don't know if a format panel makes sense for, like, an official format. I mean, I could see it being good for the format, having people who, like, spend all day in Legacy, like, trying to understand and, like, make adjustments to the format. But, well, Pauper has it because it was originally a fan-run format. And since Pauper's effective inception into, like, the main stage, it's kind of had it. Officially, how many tournaments do we get each year? I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. I do think, let's not make fun of, let's not say anything bad about people. People have opinions. No one says anything with malice. Everyone says things based on a rational foundation. Whether you agree with a rational foundation is obviously up for debate, but no one says anything intentionally irrational when it comes to stuff like that. No one who's worth listening to is truly irrational with their thoughts. Just because you might not agree with someone's thoughts doesn't make it so that their opinions and thoughts didn't come from a rational state of mind. Now, whether you agree with that rational thought, like, I think no one says anything irrationally on purpose who's, like, not trying to just rage bait. And I don't think a lot of these guys that people like to hate on are necessarily rage baiting. I just think they come from a position of what they think is best for the format, and that's how they speak. So it's like while I might not agree with some BnR takes, I do understand why. I always try to understand why someone would think the way they do on something, not just with Magic, just in general. Like trying to understand why someone thinks the way they do is, I think, very important. Now, whether you agree with it or not, that's up to you, right? But you should always at least try to understand why someone would think the way they do. And in the case of like the BnR, like I understand why some people would be for an Orcish Bowmaster's ban. Like I don't necessarily think Bowmaster needs to be banned by any means because I don't really think it creates that poor of play patterns. I do think it homogenizes black fair decks quite a bit, but like that's not. It's not like Orcish Bowmasters isn't ruining my enjoyment of Legacy. Like when I play against Orcish Bowmasters, I'm not like, oh, I lost the game immediately, right? Like I mean, sometimes you do, but. Format would be better without OBM. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree, but I also don't think the blue-black deck is very good, which is obviously the premier Bowmaster deck. But again, like I don't think Orcish Bowmasters is really like. There's a lot of cards. Like I think Fantastic Card doesn't make the format better. I don't think One Ring makes the format better. I don't think Orcish Bowmasters makes the format better, but I also don't think Bowmaster needs to be banned. Like, I don't think banning cards is good because it's like, I don't know. See, okay, here's another idea, right? The reason why banning cards is bad is because you don't want people who aren't like in tune with the format to show up with a deck of cards they like and then be told you can't play those cards, they're banned, right? Like you want to be able to open a pack and play with those cards. The thing is, though, with Legacy, no one is fucking playing a Legacy and coming in without some idea of what's happening in the format in this day and age. Like you might get like the old guy that wants to come in and play with the cards they grew up with, but like how often does that really happen? Right? Like how often does it really happen? I don't know. I'm sure Wizards has some data on that, but it's like hard to know. But then you get the question of should you cater to these people? I don't know. Maybe you should. Maybe you should cater. Maybe we should be catering to letting new players into the format. Like maybe that should be the #1 metric. No, but that's why banning is bad. Banning is bad because you don't want someone to open a pack and then be told that they can't play with the card they open, right? Like that is the foundational reason why banning a card in any trading card game is bad, is a bad idea, in my opinion. And I'm pretty sure that's like the general heuristic. Obviously, card games have matured to such an extent that it's not like but that's what I think is the foundational reason as to why banning a card is bad. Is because you don't want. I mean, like it's just one of like that's why you would like you only ban cards when you have to because you don't want people to come in with cards that they like get and they can't play with. I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be right back. I'm like very thirsty. Oh, come on. That already, there are whole packs you can't use in some form. I mean, yes. That's why I'm saying Legacy is a bad example of this because you already have to be so ingrained in Magic to even like know what Legacy is, let alone go to an event or like play the format for real. But that's like the foundational reason why you don't want to ban a card is because you don't want cards to exist that people can't play with. The Flesh and Blood system is actually perfect. Like it's not perfect, but it's like it's really a beautiful way to go about it. And I do think it's very innovative and very cool. I just don't think it would work in Magic because Magic is so mature at this point that making big sweeping changes like that, I don't know would be possible for their design language and what they've done over the last 30 years. Joe, you're okay. when I say examples like this, obviously there are exceptions. Obviously, it's not always perfect, but the idea is I'm trying to think about it at like the most granular level, the most foundational level of why things are the way they are. The most foundational level of why a banned list even exists is so that people of why you ban a card is when something is so egregious. But the foundational level of why you don't want to ban cards is because you don't want people to open a card or get a card and then be told that you can't play with that card. Like that is the foundational reason as to why banning is a bad idea in general. But obviously, it has to happen for the sake of a healthy competitive metagame. They should have banned Bug Shit Pile, dude. They should. It's the best deck in the format, honestly. I do wonder though, like True Ban Shadow of Doubt. Shadow of Doubt is a banger of a Magic card. It's like I don't know. I mean, yes, they obviously banned stuff at standard. You guys are bringing in like egregious examples. It's not a huge factor for them at this point because they know their audience is mature. But what I'm saying is the most foundational reason as to why you'd never want to ban a card. I'm basically making a devil's advocate argument as to why you don't want to ban more cards. And it's that's the foundation. Obviously, there's reasons and reasons and reasons on top of what my argument is the foundational reason. And the foundational reason is you don't want people to get open cards and then be told they can't play with them. Obviously, there's reasons and reasons and reasons now on top of that 30 years into a format. But that's like the initial reason why people were hesitant to make a banning. How much it applies in 2026, in the year of our Lord and Savior, when people have fucking Magic the Gathering tattoos and people dedicate their careers to this game is obviously very different. But that's like the initial reason as to why like they hesitate to ban cards. Yeah, you don't want to ban cards just to mix stuff up either. People are investing in the cards, better to err on the side of caution. As much as I hate that that's true, that is 100% true. Like, I would love it if Wizards banned and unbanned cards every 2 months. Every 3 months, they did big sweeping metagame changes, right? Because I play a fuck ton of this game. I play a fuck ton of this format, and I would thrive in a situation where I get to do a ton of cool random shit all the time. But that's just not the world that most people live in. Most people honestly complain when Legacy moves too fast. I'm on the opposite side, where I want Legacy to move faster and faster. I want there to be constant new metagames. The problem is the cards that are shaking up the format on average aren't creating healthy play patterns. Like, think about a card like Tarmogoyf, right? When Tarmogoyf got printed, it was the best thing ever, and everyone played it and homogenized the creature base of every deck. But it was a fun card to play with and against because it died to everything. It got chumped by except for Lightning Bolt, and it got chumped by everything. It died to removal. It didn't have trample. Like, you could set up a counter offensive. It didn't end the game on the spot. It just sat there, fucking going sideways. And that's what made Tarmogoyf beautiful. It was the best thing you could be doing. Tarmogoyf is the best version of power creep. When you have to have power creep, I mean, obviously, but it still died to all the 2-mana removal spells. It died, like, even people had Abrupt Decay, for Christ's sake, back then. I mean, I guess there was quite a bit of time before Abrupt Decay was printed, since Tarmogoyf was printed, or Tarmogoyf was Time Spiral, Abrupt Decay was Return to Ravnica. I guess Future Sight, technically. Time Spiral block. But it didn't feel bad to play against Storm. Yo, all right, Schmeckles, have a good night, bro. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. And yes, we can agree that your Eldrazi elegantly red carpet onto the battlefield and they're not vomited. Amen. But I do think, yeah, I mean, most people I think agree that Planar Nexus is probably the better ban. But I understand why they banned Candelabra, right? Like, Planar Nexus was a card that current day designers designed, and they're obviously going to be biased towards keeping the card that they designed in the form. The best way to fight a bad guy with a Tarmogoyf was a good guy. I mean, the fact that two Tarmogoyfs bounced off each other was actually pretty elegant. Because it was like it was interesting. When you think of like, I feel like banning Candelabra is just a slight nerf. I mean, I agree. Harmony, are you here still? There's a fucking fly on my light. No, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Is Harmony still here? No, she's not. I'd be curious to hear Harmony's take on that. So you're saying is Barrowgoyf is good for Legacy? I think Barrowgoyf is good for Legacy. Honestly, I don't think Barrowgoyf is a problematic card, personally. Yeah, because the thing is, like, Candlestick, like, banning Candlestick obviously hurts the power level of the deck. But I also think, like, the reason why Tron overshadowed Forge and like Blue Post was because it was just a better version of those decks, but it wasn't so much better. It was just, if you wanted to play that style of deck, you would just play Tron. But people are just going to go back to their Blue Posts and their Forges, and you're still going to lose probably 95% of the games you're going to lose even before the Candlestick ban against those decks. Right? Like, it's not like it's going to make that big of a difference to that like style of the Planar Nexus Urza's Tower One Ring decks. Like, it was just what we found to be the most efficient shell for that, but it's not like it was so much better than like the Forge decks and the Blue Post decks. Ban Candelabras are quick and so that you keep putting. Wait, so the problems. Wait, I'm confused, Picasso. Toronto's collateral damage to the Candlestick High Tide needed to be kept in check. Wait, Picasso, can you elaborate? Tron was the best deck because it had Soul Ring that untapped Saga to make 5 constructs. I support High Tide getting nerfed. I mean, I can't even remember the last. Where's Jared and fucking Marcus to talk about High Tide? I mean, I do think though, that can we unban Soul Ring? No. I think Candle Eye for vomiting bangers on the same turn made that deck egregious. I mean, Candle was like, Candle was just one of the best ways to abuse the Planar Nexus mana base. I don't even think that, like, the deck is obviously weaker. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's like that much weaker. Like I said, I really don't think Forge, like, before Tron blew up, I really don't think the Forge deck was that much weaker than Tron. Like, I still think you're going to lose. If you were to play all of the games that you just played against Tron, I bet if that person was playing Forge, you would have lost 95% of those same games. Like, I really, like, I just think I think the Tron deck was, like, marginally better than Forge. Like, the Eldrazi, like the Flesh Raker Forge decks. Like, I still think those decks are still going to reign supreme. Like, I still think Forge is the best deck in the format, even after this banning. I mean, honestly, how hard would it be to incorporate 3-ball and Eugene into Forge? Like, it really wouldn't be that hard. Like, some decks already were, even. I think Forge got hit by Consign in Days a lot more than Tron. I mean, I do think notably, very notably, especially for the white gamers, is Clarion Conqueror was notably much worse into Tron than it was into Forge. Like I do think like obviously you'd have to rebuild the deck to accommodate for 3-ball. And 3-ball was egregious for sure. But like, okay, think about like Blue Post. Blue Post could pretty reasonably run 3-ball. Yeah, okay. When I say Forge decks, I'm not saying the modern, like the current iteration of what Forge is. I'm just saying that style of deck. I still call the Tron deck Forge. Like, okay, we'll just say Mud. Okay, we'll call it Mud because I think people are getting confused. The Mud decks, I don't think are going to be that much weaker. I don't know what the best Mud shell is going to be, whether it's going to be Forge or Cloud Post, but I still think the Mud decks are still going to be one of the best decks, if not the best deck in the format, because it just has all the best tools. Like, that's my prediction. I think the Mud decks are still going to be top dog. Do you guys disagree with that? Forge is different than Mud? Dude, how is it different than Mud? Car Mud or Carless Mud? Oh my god, Metalworker has been played in Mud in like 20 years, bro. Okay, ring decks. We'll say fucking ring decks. Some flavor of ring deck is still going to be the best deck. Okay, we're like talking semantics. I have to be more specific with my words. Some flavor of ring deck I still think will be the best deck. Now that includes shit like Tony's Jewel, I fucking give up. You guys know it. Okay, the decks that run Planar Nexus and Urza's Tower, that shell I still think will be one of the best decks, if not the best deck. Yeah, there's a format your card is where you have absolutely no interest in it. Every stream turns into, why did you print this? You don't test it. And if they answer honestly, they say yes, but that would cost trouble. Taking a sensible approach, actually understand difficult. Negotiating with their reputation team is hard because you'd end up banning a lot of new users. It's easier to simply weaken it by banning from the reserve and focus on what really matters. That way you nudge the format in a healthy direction without having to actually get into the weeds. I see what you're saying. So they're basically taking the easy way out, which I agree with. I do think they historically don't make the swift decisions. They like to take light touches. Anyway, the reason why I think keeping the colorless decks as powerful as they are off the back of Planar Nexus or the ring decks is because I don't think the ring decks are very interesting decks to play against most of the time. Like, there are some games against those decks where it's like there is kind of a push and pull, but more often than not, what happens against the ring decks is you end up in a situation where you're just praying that you're going to kill them before they draw the One Ring, is what a lot of those games devolve into in my experience. And I don't think those are very fun games where I'm just hoping they don't hit off the top of their deck. One of the ways that I just immediately lose after playing a game. Like, I get that that's what combo decks do, but the ring decks do it to such an egregious extent, in my opinion. Like, for instance, when you empty a Storm Gamer's hand, it's going to take them a while to rebuild. And there's like, and you can also like still play the game. When you empty a Forge player's hand, if they even have the mana to cast, you're still going to lose if they top deck that ring. Like, there's so many single cards. Like, if they top decked Eugene, if they top decked ring, if they top decked Karn, you're just dead. Exactly. It's just a pile of cards that you absolutely cannot let resolve. And there's too many cards that you absolutely cannot let resolve. That's the problem, in my opinion. And hitting Candelabra doesn't fix that problem. I think hitting Planar Nexus would have actually fixed that problem quite a bit. Because right now, those decks have such a strong mana base. If you give like right now, you could attack their mana and it sometimes does something and sometimes does nothing. Before Planar Nexus and Urza's Tower, if you hit their mana, like you force their fucking Grim Monolith they could get really fucked, especially if they casted that off of City of Traders. Like, there is a lot more fail points for that deck and decks to interact with them. But I would say now you need to not only hit their artifact mana, their land base, and also their payoffs that also generate mana sometimes. Like, they're too resilient with Planar Nexus, because historically those decks were weak to something like Null Rod or Void Mirror, Harry, as you mentioned, but they're not really as weak to those cards they once were, which is a problem because they're so resilient now. And that doesn't lead to interesting games. Like, my biggest thing is I want interesting games of Magic, and I think force checks are not interesting games of Magic, in my opinion. I mean, some people like that style of game where like win or lose fast, but yeah. I mean, I will say that Clarion Conquer notably was very good if the deck you were playing against didn't run Eugene, but if the deck ran Eugene, then it was kind of miserable. Moon Stompy with 6 main deck Moon effects and Null Rod seems like it should be good then, but it sure isn't because of the stupid Fun Police Days Wasteland decks. Describing Moon Stompy as fun is crazy. Yeah, I mean, Moon Stompy is another deck that I'm not thrilled to play against most of the time. I mean, again, my favorite games of Magic is shit like the Delver Mirror. Shit like Control versus like a Tempo. Like shit like mid-range versus mid-range. Please ban Tempo so we can all play Moon Stompy Mirrors. I mean, Joe, I know you're a diehard Ring fan, which is fair, but I'm not. I don't like the Ring systematically made almost every other card advantage engine obsolete. Like, you can never outvalue a Ring. Obviously, I'm being hyperbolic. I want to say that. Like, there's obviously situations where you can't. But basically what I'm saying is, like, the Ring is such an abomination of card design that it's hard to top that level of card advantage for just a single card. Also, why the fuck does it get protection? A 4-mana thing that gives you some card advantage is incorrect. It is not some. It is the most card advantage. And killing you is also not really that relevant that often. Like, I honestly can think of only I can only think of very few times where the Ring losing health was truly relevant. It's relevant as such a minority of the time. Like, there's a lot of issues I have with the One Ring, and it's egregious. Honestly, if they banned the One Ring, I would have been happy, but I see why they didn't. The damage on One Ring is only slightly more impactful than Fetches or Force of Will. It's 4-mana Time Walk and Ancestral. I agree with that. I actually do agree with that. It is Time Walk plus Ancestral Recall all in one card. The Fantasticar makes the pain of... Do you guys think Fantasticar should have been banned? I mean, they're definitely reprinting the One Ring in The Hobbit because they have to, obviously. Is there a future for custom formats similar to Legacy? I don't think so. I'm not a big fan of the fan run formats in general. Like, I don't really think they've got a lot of staying power. I also am not that interested in them personally. Obviously, like, I'm being like what's the word I'm looking for? If a fan run format got an absurd amount of attention, like pre-modern, I would probably look at it more. But in order for me personally, with limited time, to like really dial in on a totally made up format, it would need to have a significant like proof of concept before I would take a look at it. Fantastic Car should definitely go next time around. Banning it so fast would be. I mean, the Fantastic Car is a card that I don't think promotes good gameplay. It's just like not an interesting card to play. Like, it's fun, it's funny, and I enjoy it, but I don't think it makes for interesting games of Magic. Like, I don't think splintering the player base when we're already a tiny player base is ever a good thing, personally. Like, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of splintering the player base when our player base is already small. I also don't really like the, like, I do think there's a lot of cool designs and cards that have come out of newer sets. Like, I think Curie is one of my favorite cards, and not just from like a obviously biased perspective, as you can see with my Dreadnought picture. But I do think Curie is like a really fun card to play with, and it's like there's a lot of like ways to interact with it, and there's a lot of ways to stop it, and there's a lot of counterplay to it. Like, Curie is an awesome card, and I'd be upset if I couldn't play with Curie, even if I don't play with it right now. Like, I do think like a lot of the newer, the problem is I think like Wizards is a very hands-off with the format. Yeah, I mean, Car is really not that dissimilar to Oops. Like, let's be honest, it's basically the Oops play pattern. Car is basically the Oops play pattern of, here's my 4 spells I can cast that I win the game. It's obviously less powerful than, because the other person gets a turn, like in the combo mirror, to try to kill you back, and you've emptied your hand. But, like, it's basically Oops. Like, at its core, it's basically the Oops combo. Car is more egregious than Oops because it's less all in. That is true that it's less all in, but it also doesn't win the game on the spot. I mean, it effectively does most of the time, but if you're like in the combo mirror, your opponent can still combo you out the following turn to kill you. Card deck can play draw engine. I do think the other problem with the car is the fact that there's no point of interaction for it for creature removal. I really dislike that it's a May effect on everything. I think that's silly as hell that it's all May effects. Honestly, if it wasn't May effects, it'd be fine, in my opinion. Like, I think, what do you do? Cast a spell? It should be a creature. Like, 100% it should be a creature. Like, why do you get to protect yourself against? Because like, here's the other thing. If it could be a creature, if it had to be a creature, right? Like, it would actually open up creature removal against what's it called? It would open up creature removal against Storm, which I think is cool. Downsides are bad. I do wish cards had downsides more often. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like, I don't know. There's like so many ways that they could fix these cards, and they just don't, because you can't really fix a card once it's printed. Thassa's Oracle would be like 10,000 times better if it didn't say or equal to. Yeah. I agree with that, actually. I do think Thassa's Oracle leads to a lot of like feel bad moments where there's just nothing you could do. Non-creature spells, crewing my car for nothing. I do think Car needed to not have May triggers out the ass. I think Car would actually be fine if it wasn't on May triggers. The fact that everything is a May trigger on Car is what puts it over the edge. Like, imagine you could just fucking snuff out the car before it explodes. Like, right? It would be a lot more balanced. The Labman was a super sick design. I agree with that. Like, I get what happened with Fantastic Cars designed by someone who's never single played a 60 card 20 life match in their life. 0 cars of type vehicle are illegal in pre-modern. Just saying. Speaking of which, I need to find a pre-mod. Harry, do you have pre-modern Dreadnought that I could borrow for the team trios we're in? Rain has way too much of a zoomer. I'm playing pre-modern in team trios. I'm fucking doing trios with Shay and Harry, and I'm fucking Harry better carry, dude. I only have bad pre-modern decks. God damn it! I really don't want to bring cards just for this one thing. Yeah, Dreadnought is just show and tell. I'm well aware. I say that all the time. Dreadnought and pre-modern just feels like show and tell. It's okay. I'm gonna carry Pauper. I believe. I'm sure I can find someone to loan me pre-modern Dreadnought. I have a Prima. Is that with Dream Halls or whatever? Anyway, we're getting off topic because I got to go here in like 10 minutes. I'm gonna go see the Bleach movie with one of my boys. I think ultimately though, like, does the format get better with the candelabra ban? I don't know. I don't think so. I actually don't think the format is better than it was before because I think the card decks are largely just going to take that place. Does car need to be banned? Probably eventually. I do think, unfortunately, because I don't think it's a very interesting card. I also don't know if it needed to get banned today, though. I think maybe there's a world where people can adapt to it. But I don't think that world is going to exist. But I also wouldn't. Human ingenuity knows no bounds, after all. Legacy Storm player here. I hate car, and I hope it's Lee. I hope it was Lee. I hope it was Lee. It is kind of a good Storm card. Probably the best, honestly. I think fundamentally you can't ban a card after a week. I mean, I think the solution was pushing back the BnR like a week or two, honestly, and just saying that because this set came out just recently, we want to give the metagame some time to adapt. I do think the true solution was to just wait 2 weeks before doing this BnR. But I also understand that then it's like cutting into the next BnR. But I also don't know if we need to be so rigid with our BnRs. But I realize that's been like a big push for them in general, is to be more rigid with their BnRs. So it's like hard to say. Card Focus, how is the count to force spell good in for Echo of Eon's decks? I mean, I'm curious to know what Brian thinks about Carr. I watched his video today, but he didn't really talk about Carr that much. WotC controls, yeah. I mean, they do have totalitarian control as the company that owns the game. I mean, obviously he's going to have 4 cards in his main because it's insane in his deck, but I'm curious what he thinks about whether it should have been banned or it should be banned or not. That's what I'm really curious about. If it wasn't so, if I didn't have to leave in a little bit, I would actually text him right now to see if he can join the stream. But Bucks hard is what they said in the... Yeah, but that was like... I'd be curious to know what their thoughts are in a week from now. When we get a full round of challenges, I'd be very curious to know what his thoughts are on the legitimacy of Carr. Oh, and well, not the legitimacy, but like the the inevitability of whether a card will be banned or not. I'm sure the Eternal. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Brian. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Brian was pro car. Obviously, he plays Storm, but I also trust his take to be unbiased when it comes to combo decks. I kind of want to see this Bleach movie. Oh, I'm good. Yeah, I'm very excited. It's basically the first 3 episodes of the last season. It's basically a theatrical showing of the first 3 episodes from season 4 of Thousand Year Blood War. So it's not really a movie. They just stitched together the first, like, I say half or whatever of maybe it's the first 4 episodes. I don't know. It's just the stitched together episodes on a big screen. So you'll be able to watch it when it goes live, like next week, I think, on Crunchyroll or whatever. Pokemon. I mean, I was gonna say, what do you think? But I also know that you don't really play the game anymore. So I was gonna say, but basically, my to sum it up, because I'm gonna get going here in a second. I think Planar Nexus should have been the ban because I think Planar Nexus is a poorly designed card and it's very not inelegant. It's just not a very inelegant. It's a very like confusing card for new players. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It creates really bad play patterns, in my opinion. It's like it's just not very interesting. And I don't know if it's the type of card that makes the game more interesting. It's just like a ton of words that just do broken things. It also gives you the ability to play around Void Mirror, which is unfortunate because it feels pretty bad to bring in a Void Mirror only for them to go Planar Nexus and be like, haha, nice Void Mirror. And then Candlestick ban, I don't think was right. I think Candlestick is a cool card to have. I think Candlestick is a fun card to have in the format. I don't think they should have attacked those decks by banning the fun card, but I also understand that they probably don't like that this is the top deck. Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, and they're not idiots either. They are also well aware that they don't want their format being dominated by a deck that costs as much as a Toyota Prius. And then if they banned Planar next to the top deck, would it be 18K? Yeah, but I also think that there's a reason why they'll never unban Survival, even though I think Survival would actually be fun for the format. And it's because, again, they're not. Somebody posted this on Reddit, actually. Let me see if I can pull up the thread. But I basically said, why is Survival the fit? Somebody said, here, let me see if I can pull up the thing. Basically, someone asked, why is this okay but not? I'm trying to find the post now. Why is this okay but not? Why is Tron okay but not Survival Vengevine? Or why is Car okay and not Survival Vengevine? And I said that they're never going to unban Survival because of the price. Because it would easily be like $1,000 card at least if they unbanned it. Here's the post. Okay, I found it. Yeah, why is Fantastic okay but not Survival Vengevine? Which is a fair comparison. To be honest, it is a fair comparison. Like, they are very similar decks. And it is because of the price. Like 100%. And then I know for sure that the reason why they don't like talking about prices and why it's like a big no-no is because if they as a company acknowledge that there is variable pricing in their cards, that would imply that their booster packs are gambling, which would then open them up to gambling laws, which they obviously do not want to deal with. And yeah, I do think Benjamin Fittest is going to be on average weaker than Carr, 100%. And then lastly, and then Fantastic Car, again, I don't think Fantastic Car should have been, I don't think Fantastic Car should have been banned. But I also would not have been surprised or unhappy if it did get banned. So anyway, we'll see what happens. I got to get going. I'm going to go to the movies now. They make Candelabra. You just missed it, bro. This VOD is going to be on YouTube if you're curious. Anyway, I'm going to end this with saying, I did not think about what I was going to say that hard. I didn't even think I was going to boot up my stream right now because I was going to go to the movies and watch Bleach. The Bleach like theatrical release for the new season. I did not think I was going to boot up the stream right now, but fuck it, I decided I would because when I got home, no one was home, and I was like, all right, whatever. So I didn't really think about this all the way through, which is why it's kind of scatterbrained, and it definitely was scatterbrained. But I will have this on YouTube if anyone is interested. And seeing the full thing. And I kind of explained my thoughts on a lot of this. Please ignore the semantic argument that plagued half of this stream of what is a ring deck, what is mud, what is a combo deck, what is a stompy deck. Ignore that part. We were just getting through semantics. See, assuming don't get rage baited by the Bleach movie. I'll try my best. But anyway, all that to say, I will see you guys later. Your terminology is terrible. Thank you, Harry. For the record, I think my terminology is good. One, and I'll give two reasons. One, because I think if you're an ingrained Legacy player, you'll know what I mean when I say the things that I do. And if you're not, you'll get an idea of what I mean, which I think is important. You guys are just being rage-baiting pieces of shit. Mark my words. I mean, Harry is the fucking poster child for fucking rage baiting piece of shit. I'm kidding. But yeah, we would never rage bait here. Now, if you actually said the right stuff, it would be more clear than this. Not Candle, bro. Yeah, I don't think Candle should have been banned either. Anyway, let me text you to my buddies here actually. Oh. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my rambling. Again, it's not like I was like, I came into this with like a very defined thing of what I was going to say. I just kind of started talking. Anyway, I hope you guys get my thoughts on it. I don't know if my thoughts are relevant at all, but if you guys do care, it is on YouTube now. All this to say that I still enjoy playing Legacy. I'm going to the DMB Classic here in a couple of weeks to cast the event, so I'm very excited about that. I'm gonna keep probably jamming Carr, Vroom in various decks. But I do agree that I don't know if it needed to be banned today, but I would not be surprised if it gets banned to the next BnR. I do wish Planar Nexus was the hit and not Candelabra, but I also understand why they hit Candelabra. You can find my logic if you watch the thing. Anyway, I got to get going. I will see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. I might boot up the stream when I get back. We'll see. But I will see you guys later.